All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you hadn't gotten your mail, you go right ahead. I do want to remind everybody that those of you with the 50-yard line club, the pictures with you and Dave Wanstead, if you hadn't picked them up, they're up here to my right. We'll be here after the meeting. You can put them in an envelope and take them out of here. I want to thank Dwayne Duncan for doing those photos. I understand it's raining out there a little bit, so glad to have you here. Excited to hear our guest speaker, Mark May, as he returns to Little Rock. First time since 2012, and he had a very late night, and I'm glad he's here. Very easily could have not been here early this morning. And but without further ado, Gary Underwood, would you come up and bless the food, please?
Thank you, David. Two things before we start. Young man right here is having a birthday today. Rex Nelson. Now, that's right. I think half the world already knew on Facebook this morning from what I saw. The other thing is, could be a lot worse today, folks. We could be in Columbia, South Carolina. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the day and the opportunity to gather together, to enjoy each other's fellowship, to enjoy a great speaker. We ask you to use us today in your service and use the food that we've had today to give us strength to serve you every day. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Gary. A couple things real quick. I know a lot of you have asked about parking. So let me explain to you about the parking real quick. Contractually, the embassy does not have to provide us parking. First of all, they sort of did that for us just being nice last year. But their corporate folks have said, no, that has to be charged. So I said, so we are working with them about, okay, you know, we'll give if our members pay, they'll give us a discounted fee. Will you allow it then? And so we're hoping that we can do that to where when you drive in to park in the parking deck, you can just pay them $5 or whatever, but they're not going to let us do it for free. I'm just going to tell you, unless somebody forgets and just opens the gate. So we're working on that. So I want to let you know. But last year, the last couple of years, we were just fortunate because they weren't supposed to be doing that. And if they have a full hotel, they can't let us do it at all, obviously, because the hotel deck is full. But I do want to let you know we are working towards that. So for those of you who have asked, I know it's very convenient. So I apologize if you had to get wet today, and really glad to have you here. Also want to remind everybody, those RSVPs are very important. I hope you know that when you RSVP, whether you're a member, whether you're a guest, whether you're a sponsor, whether you're a 50-yard line member, if you say you RSVP, we guarantee that. And I'll just tell you, last week we had about 25 or 30 no-shows, and we had to pay $500, $600 more just to give it away. Just had to give it away. So just be cognizant, you know, when you RSVP and you don't show up, that still costs us money because that's what we have the guarantee. So just understand that and help us out with that. That would be greatly appreciated. Do I hear a hiss? What is that? Don't know? Do you guys hear that, or is it just me? Is it right here? Or do you have it back there too? All right, check. Might see if we can get Brent and see if Brent may. Can you find him? Thank you. I do want to remind everybody, thank you if you're a member. We appreciate that. If you're a member already and you want to upgrade to be a member of the National Football Foundation or Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, we encourage you to do that. Rex, I let the folks from the NFF, National Football Foundation, know that we're up to like 60 members already from Arkansas. So that's great after 2 meetings. So that's, I'm sure very few clubs across the country did 60 memberships in the first 2 weeks. And I think we have 35 Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame memberships. So, and if you hadn't joined, please join, even at whether it be $60, $135, the $275, whatever it is. We want you to be a member and help support the club. Next week, there was a little bit of confusion. I think I said it right, though, last week. Next week, we have to go back downtown, and that's just because, you know, in working with Mike Singletary, he had to do it on a Tuesday. This building was not available on Tuesday, so we're back at the Marriott. Not where Coach Bielema was, but the Marriott where Coach Bielema was last year, inside the nice Marriott Hotel. So how many are looking forward to hearing Mike Singletary? Somebody who I think will be great to hear from. Really lucky to have him. Yes, I think he'll be great. How many enjoyed Dave Wanstead last week? I thought he was great too. Mark May is aware that our first two speakers have talked about him at the podium. Some more graciously than others. So I think he's ready to respond to that today too. I do want to do our sponsor roll call real quick. Do want to thank Twin City Limo for picking up our guests each week. Thank you, Popeye. Cranford Johnson Robinson Woods. I know that Richard McEwen is here today. They're helping to promote the Cliff Harris Award, which will get underway here in the next couple of weeks. We have the statue right here in front of us. Thank you, Richard. The Little Rock Convention and Visitor Bureau, David Russell, thank you so much for your support and what you're doing here in Little Rock. 103.7 The Buzz, where you can hear Mark May every Thursday. He was in Atlanta this week, and somebody came up to him. He said, "Just heard you on the Buzz." And Mark said, "I'm in Atlanta." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I listened to you on the Buzz app here in Atlanta." So love to know that the Buzz is everywhere, and they're broadcasting at every Touchdown Club meeting with Justin and Pat out in the lobby. Epic Health, Arkansas Urology. It is, I think it's Prostate Month this week, Prostate Awareness Month. So when you're talking about guys, make sure you go by Arkansas Urology and Epic Health and make sure they let you do a free screening. So I encourage you to do that this year. Put it on your goal if you don't do that already. Glad to have Epic back and their merger with Arkansas Urology. Wendy's, Nan Trammell. Wendy's is my #1 fast food stop in town. Go by and order some food from them if you can. Also, Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, Judy Henry, a firm that's been around more than 100 years. We always talk about them being a sports agency firm, but they're also a great business firm. So if you're in business and you need some legal advice or legal help, they have some powerful attorneys over there. They know their stuff. Glad to have Judy and her staff here today. And make sure and call them if you're in need of any kind of legal help with your business or private life, or even when it comes to athletes. Thank you, Judy. Also, Crane Automotive. I think Drew was here a minute ago. We do want to thank Crane Automotive for sponsoring. They are sponsoring both touchdown clubs, the Little Rock Touchdown Club and the Northwest Arkansas Touchdown Club. So go by and see the folks at Crane when it's time to make an automobile decision, and tell them you heard about them at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette will be doing our High School Player of the Week beginning next week. High school action underway, so glad to have them and their involvement. And Simmons Bank, of course, today. Let's give a round of applause. We actually have had him 2 out of 3 meetings. Tommy May, one of the great Simmons men of all time. And he's still talking Razorback football. Hey, listen, he's going to give his opinion about Razorback football. And George Macris and Adam Mitchell could not be here today. They have a big function at Simmons. So look who we brought out of the closet. Lunsford Bridges, everybody. How about Lunsford? It's great. He looks familiar there. What'd you say? Temporary scholarship, he says. Glad to have Lunsford. Of course, Lunsford was here 2 years ago when Mark was here. Also do want to thank Matt Johnson, who's doing our video production. He's the guy who helps set up all this. I think our staging area, our lights at the end. If you notice down there at the end, the rotating Little Rock Touchdown Club lights, just to spice things up a little bit. Thank you, Matt Johnson. Dwayne Duncan, who has done great photography for us for years. Thank you, Dwayne, for the job you do. Our amazing check-in ladies, they're just wrapping up things. Debbie Wyman, who's done an outstanding job as our executive director in 3 weeks. I'm telling you what, things are cranking, running smoothly. We appreciate her hard work and all the girls up front. RJ Hawk, where's RJ doing our social media? There he is right there. Remember, at LR Touchdown, hashtag LRTDC Club, right? I got it right. It's at LR Touchdown Club. So if you do Twitter, it's at LR Touchdown Club. Do you still do Twitter, Mark? Do you still do Twitter at all? You've got 2 accounts, and people join in. Mark doesn't even tweet back. He just keeps the account. Hashtag LRTDC and LRTouchdown.com for our website. Thank you, RJ, for the work you do here at the club. It is a birthday day today for our man Rex Nelson. All I know is I think his birthday used to be maybe a popular speed limit, say double nickel. So before we introduce him to the weekend wrap up, let's do a Little Rock Touchdown Club birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Rex Nelson. We can wrap up, guy. Happy birthday to you. Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Just remember, Baz, 55 is the new 25. So we're gonna show some energy here. We got a lot to cover. We're gonna make this mark ESPN quality. Although I was going to say to all of you, I am glad you were able to pull yourself away from Walmart to be with us here today. Did you catch that weird Brent Musburger comment at the end of the first half? I know he's from the ESPN family, Mark, but Brent may be looking at retirement. He just celebrated his 103rd birthday, by the way, just so you know. Well, we start 2014 where we left off in 2013. That's another Razorback loss, but that's going to end this Saturday when we demote the Nichols Colonels to Buck Private. But back to the loss that we had. Auburn 45, Arkansas 21. A decent first half of football from the Razorbacks. The losing streak is now 10 games, though. That is the longest in school history. Prior to the current streak, the record was 7. in the Jack Crow year of 1990 and also in 52-53, which was the end of the Otis Douglas era and the start of the Bowden White era, Jim Rasco. It marked the 13th consecutive conference loss. Obviously, that's a school record for most conference losses. Auburn outgaining Arkansas 267-61 in the second half. Hogs just 2 rushing yards in that second half. Auburn had both a 150-yard rusher and a 150-yard receiver for the first time in 13 years, and it was the 11th consecutive game for Auburn to score 30 or more points. Arkansas, unfortunately, is now 0-9 against ranked teams since the start of the 2012 season. Brett Bielema falls to 8-1 as a head coach in season openers. First time he'd ever lost to opener. Meanwhile, native Arkansan Gus Malzahn 30-3 in Jordan-Hare Stadium as an offensive coordinator and a head coach. Pretty impressive. Let's go up to Jonesboro, where my youngest son and I were on Saturday night. Arkansas State, start of the Blake Anderson era, struggled for a half before about 26,000 fans, but then exploded for a 37-10 victory over Montana State. The first time for Montana State to play in the state gym since the Aluminum Bowl at War Memorial Stadium in 1956, right? Which was a scoreless tie. There's some real deep trivia for you that you didn't want to know. The Red Wolves, who go to Tennessee this week, won their 8th consecutive game over an FCS opponent. In his first career start, Freddie Knighton from right here in Little Rock, Pulaski Academy, had a good game. 368 total yards. He had 219 passing, 104 rushing, and 45 yards receiving. Montana State trailed only 13-10 in the third quarter. They came in ranked. They're a pretty good team, 18th in the FCS. In fact, they've been ranked in the FCS for more than 60 consecutive weeks, but after cutting that Red Wolf lead to 3, they ended up punting 5 times and turned it over twice more as the Red Wolf defense dominated down the way. And what about the performance those UCA Bears put on out in Lubbock on Saturday? Wish they would have gotten the victory. Very well in a 42-35 loss to Texas Tech before more than 60,000. It was the debut of the Steve Campbell era at UCA. The Bears cut it to 7 with 2:57 left in the game. They tried an onside kick. Red Raiders unfortunately recovered and ran out the clock. UCA had led at one point 16-7 in that game and trailed only 21-16 at halftime. Very good performance. Bad start for the season for UAPB, losing 65-0 to Dennis Franchione's Texas State Bobcats in San Marcos. By the way, if you're wondering where native Arkansan John Thompson is, who coached ASU to 2 straight bowl victories, he is now at Texas State as defensive coordinator under Francione. UAPB 1-6 in season openers under Monty Coleman, including last season's 62-11 opening loss at Arkansas State. Texas State had a school record 697 yards in that ball game. Not a good start for the Golden Lions. Now, let's get to the SEC. Start with Thursday night. How about those Aggies? All of y'all had picked Texas A&M, right? I know everybody was on that Aggie bandwagon. Actually, they went into Columbia and just blew out South Carolina as we got to see the patented Steve Spurrier headset throw more than once in that game. That was fun to watch. Name of the week in the conference, Kenny Hill. Nobody even mentioned him coming into the season. Sophomore quarterback, 511 yards passing, breaking Johnny Manziel's school record of 464 yards that he had set last year against Alabama. Steve Spurrier had won 21 consecutive opening games coming into this one. That dated back to his final season at Duke in 1989. No one had ever thrown for as many yards against a Gamecock team in South Carolina's 18-game home victory streak. It comes to an end. Also on Thursday night, Ole Miss looked sloppy at times on offense in its game against Boise State down in Atlanta, but the Rebel defense was solid throughout, 35-13. Bo Wallace throws for 387 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 of the touchdowns came on consecutive throws in the fourth quarter of this battle between former Arkansas State head coaches Hugh Freeze and Brian Harsin going against each other. And Vanderbilt, I don't know if you stayed up for it, you shouldn't have. They looked just awful. 7 turnovers and a 37-7 loss to Temple. You're not supposed to lose to Temple in football, by the way, in Nashville. All right, on to Saturday. My number one team in the country right now is Georgia, folks. They come right here to Little Rock later this season. 45-21 over Clemson. Todd Gurley, probably my leading Heisman Trophy contender, too. He returns a kickoff 100 yards. He rushes for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns and sets a school record for all-purpose yards. There have been some pretty good running backs at that school, too. Herschel Walker, people like that. Gurley sets the record on Saturday. Alabama struggles a bit in its 33-23 win over West Virginia and Atlanta. Coming off a 4-8 season, West Virginia was a 26.5-point underdog. By the way, they did a test in Atlanta. They got 100 West Virginia fans and came up with one full set of teeth when they put them all together, just so you know. I was telling Mayday, I used to live in Washington, D.C. We tell Aggie jokes in Arkansas. I found out they tell West Virginia jokes up that way, so that's just one for Mark. A very impressive comeback by LSU, 28-24 over Wisconsin down in Houston. Wisconsin led 24-7 in that game. LSU extends the nation's longest regular season non-conference winning streak to 46 games. That's amazing. Missouri beats South Dakota State 38-18. Tigers win their 13th consecutive season opener. They are 14-0 all-time against FCS teams. Mississippi State over in Stark Vegas beats Southern Miss 49-0. Dak Prescott throws for a career-high 284 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Kentucky scores on almost every possession in a 49-14 rout of Tennessee Martin. The Wildcats outgain UT Martin 656-398. That UT Martin team comes to Conway this Saturday night. And there was also a Sunday game. Tennessee, coming off 4 consecutive losing seasons, has its first sellout, get this, in 7 years. They beat Utah State 38-7. Not that dynamic a week in the SEC. We've got Nicholls State at Arkansas, Florida Atlantic at Alabama, San Jose State at Auburn, Eastern Michigan at Florida, Ohio at Kentucky, Sam Houston State at LSU, Ole Miss at Vanderbilt, UAB at Mississippi State, Missouri at Toledo, East Carolina at South Carolina, Lamar at Texas A&M, and Arkansas State has to go to Knoxville to play Tennessee this week. Other Arkansas teams, you have UT Martin up at UCA on Saturday night, Concordia's at UAPB, Henderson goes out to Southern Nazarene, Southwestern Oklahoma is at Harding, Southeastern Oklahoma is at SAU, Northwestern Oklahoma plays at Arkansas Tech, and East Central Oklahoma at UAM. So a lot of college football in the state this week. You got games in Fayetteville, Conway, Pine Bluff, Searcy, Magnolia, Russellville, and Monticello. That's the wrap-up for Week 1. Get out and see a college football game this weekend. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Good job there, Rex. Thank you very much. Being 55 hadn't slowed you down any, Rex. How about that? Boy, I tell you, talk about a great game this weekend. I saw Jeff Hildebrand back there with the Broyles Award in the Rotary Club. Pet Narduzzi, who won the Broyles Award last year. Michigan State has Oregon. Boy, you're talking about a matchup. Something's got to give there, either great defense or great offense. So looking forward to watching that game. Also, I do want to say thanks to Embassy Suites and their work today. Brent and Beth, thank you so much. Before you turn your phone off, if you want to tell everybody, they can go to lrtouchdown.com and they can hear Mark if they're not here. They can actually see Mark speak. So if you want to do that, if not, go ahead and silence your phones. I mentioned that maybe I didn't today, but Wendy sponsors the Willie Rofe Award and the Dan Hampton Award. Now, you played against Dan, right? Played against Dan. Of course, I mentioned Wright, Lindsay, and Jenny sponsors the Cliff Harris Award. You played against Cliff, right? Well, Epic Men's Health and Arkansas Urology sponsor the Sully Award, and Sully is here today. Sully called the UCA game versus Texas Tech, and if you want to know why we call it the Sully Award, here you go.
All right. You can't beat them with field goals. It's 4th and goal at the 1. They're going to line up fast. They will not kick a field goal. 4th and goal from the 1. Power formation. Taylor Reed, the keeper, forges forward. Are they going to spot him? They're going to spot him shy of the goal. Touchdown! Touchdown, UCA!
Only Sully can do it that way, and that's why there's a Sully Award for the best high school and college call in Arkansas. It's so great to have Mark May back. Like I mentioned, it's been great having him on the Buzz these last 3 years. I know our sponsors from the Buzz are here today. He's one of the most popular guys we have on our show. I think he's one of the most well-studied analysts out there. Lunchwood was over here showing off how much he knew all this weekend about the games, and Mark was just spitting it right back at him. Lunchwood would say a stat, Mark would come back with 2 stats. So some guys don't do the homework like Mark does, but one thing about Mark, he knows that Arkansas loves him and enjoys him, whether he picks us to win or not. And the fact that many of you saw him last night on TV at what time, Mark?
I think we got off at about 11.
Got off the air in Bristol at 11. That means he doesn't go to bed till 12:45. Had to get up at 4 o'clock to catch a flight. And so the fact that he made the effort to come here, we appreciate it. And we look forward to hearing what he's going to say, and also open it up to Q&A at the end. So let's give a formal welcome here. Hold on. We'll let Jim Rasco give the formal introduction. Come on up, Jim. Thank you, Mark.
Felt like I was going to get cut out there for a second. All these notes would have gone to waste. All right, Mark May was born in Oneonta, New York. That's only 22 miles from the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. He began his college playing career in 1977 under Jackie Sherrill at the University of Pittsburgh. As a freshman, he worked his way into the starting lineup in time to enjoy the Panthers' 34-3 win over Clemson in the Gator Bowl. As a sophomore, he started every game, and Pitt went to the Citrus Bowl. In 1979, as a junior, he was named the AP's All-East team, and the Panthers rolled to an 11-1 record, beating Arizona in the Fiesta Bowl to finish number 7 in the final polls. As I said last week when introducing Dave Wanstead, it's hard to find game action photos of offensive linemen, but here he is, number 73, blocking for Dan Marino out of the Street and Smith of that year, but can't blow it up on the big screen. In 1980, Pitt went 11-1, losing only a 36-22 midseason shootout to Florida State. Then, after defeating South Carolina 37-9 in the Gator Bowl, the Panthers were voted number 2 in the final poll. That season, along with next week's speaker, Mike Singletary, and here's proof of that, Mark was a unanimous All-American tackle. Both he and Singletary were tackles. He followed Wanstead at Pitt, though he had a lot better career than Wanstead did at Pitt. I think Wanstead made second team All-East, whereas Mark was a unanimous All-American. Okay, the Football Writers Association of America voted Mark to receive the Outland Trophy. At the end of every season since 1946, the Outland Trophy has been awarded to the outstanding interior lineman in college football. As most of you know, only 2 Razorbacks has ever won this coveted award. Bud Brooks, who played offensive guard and defensive tackle for the 1954 Southwest Conference champions, and Lloyd Phillips, a sophomore defensive tackle for the 1964 national champion Razorbacks, who won the award following his senior season in 1966. Following Mark's Outland Trophy winning senior season, he was the first-round draft choice of the Washington Redskins and new head coach Joe Gibbs. He moved in the starting lineup as a rookie in 1981 and stayed there for 9 consecutive seasons. In the spring of 1982, the offensive linemen of the Redskins became known as the Hogs. There are only 2 sets of Hogs in football, the Arkansas Razorbacks and the offensive line of the Redskins during the 1980s. Mark was a starting right guard when the Redskins won their first Super Bowl by defeating the Dolphins 27-17 in January of 1983. He was in the Super Bowl again the following season when the Redskins lost to the Raiders. And he was the right tackle when the Redskins crushed Denver 42-10 in the Super Bowl played in January of 1988. Following the 1988 regular season, Mark was named first-team All-Pro by Pro Football Weekly and was chosen to play in the Pro Bowl, where he helped lead the NFC to a 34-3 victory. He missed the 1990 season with injuries, but signed with the Chargers in the spring of 1991 and played 1 season in San Diego. He wound up his career as the starting left guard for the Cardinals in 1992 and again in 1993. I will mention that in his 4 years at Pitt and during his 13 years in the NFL, Mark always wore number 73. In 2001, the University of Pittsburgh retired his jersey. In 2002, the Washington Redskins celebrated the 70th anniversary of their franchise and as part of the celebration, named the 70 greatest Redskins in franchise history. Mark May was one of the 70 people on that list. In 2001, Mark joined ESPN as an analyst and commentator on college football. He's currently a regular on the popular College Football Scoreboard and College Football Final. He also appears on pregame, halftime, and postgame coverage during the season, and on College Football Live in the offseason. During the season, he offers analysis on ESPN2, ESPN News, and also one morning a week right here on 103.7 The Buzz. In closing, let me mention that our speaker received perhaps his most important individual honor in 2005 when he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Now, here's the man you came to hear, number 73, Mark May.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to take care of some house cleaning. For all of you that don't know what David does for the Little Rock Touchdown Club and what he does for the National Football Foundation and what he does for this city and the state of Arkansas, you don't know what a jewel and a find you have because you don't have that anywhere else. Now, some other house cleaning. So Brett Bielema had some words to say about me. I think Brett should concentrate on his own football team. Since he's lost 10 consecutive games, he needs to find out how to win a game in the conference before he talks about me. But that off the table, I love Brett. He's a good and dear friend of mine. He did a terrific job when he was at Wisconsin. He will do a terrific job here at Arkansas. Just be patient with him. They're getting better. Dave Wannstedt had words to say about me when he was here. Well, have you know, Dave Wannstedt was a grad assistant when I was at Pitt, and I recommended Dave Wannstedt to Jimmy Johnson to go to Oklahoma State, where he got his college football coaching career started. Then he went to Miami. Then he went to the Dallas Cowboys. Then he got a head coaching job with Chicago and Miami and the University of Pittsburgh. So every time he picks up a check, signs anything with his credit card, he should think of me. So, besides the housekeeping, it is an honor and a pleasure to be back here at the Little Rock Touchdown Club and in Arkansas because I know that there are tremendous football fans here and you truly enjoy the sport of football. Happy college football season to you. We're finally underway this season at ESPN and college football. We started off with a tremendous weekend of games this weekend. Obviously, you know about the Texas A&M upset at South Carolina, the ball coach throwing his visor all around and his headset all around. That was one of the top games of the weekend, one of the many surprises in college football. That's one of the reasons why I cover college football. Because of the dynamics of college football, the excitement and the passion of college football. I had opportunities to cover the NFL, and I did when I was at TNT and CBS, and some with ESPN. If I had a choice to make, should it be the NFL or college football, I made it college football. Because of the passion, because of the fans, because of what you have and what you give and what you want college football to be, it truly is. You're rarely ever disappointed. Only with wins and losses, but you're never disappointed with the game of college football and the history of college football. That's why I love college football so much, and that's why I love coming out and spending time and breaking bread with such great fans of college football because you understand the game. You know the game. The one thing about college football when I travel across the country, it's grandmothers, it's uncles, it's aunts, it's grandkids, it's students, it's parents that have a relationship and a bond with universities all across this country. Whether it be a neighbor or a friend. Somebody always went to the University of Michigan that you knew, or Arkansas, or Alabama, or Pittsburgh. That's the foundation, and that's what we have together, that we intertwine together as college football fans. That's one common denominator that we all have, is that we all know somebody or we all cheer for that team. It's so different from the NFL. When you go to an NFL game, it's all sanitized. The players are so far away. You can't really get a grasp of it. When you go to college football games, you're right there. You're inside of it. You're where the impact. You can see the players and the coaches, and you can go to events like this and meet the coaches and players. That's what's so different between college football and the NFL. That's why I gravitated towards college football. Now, you mentioned some of the things that I've done throughout my career and my life. Many of you probably don't know. My first love was baseball. Think of it. The Baseball Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, New York, is 22 miles away. I was a little league pitcher, 5'11", 220. That's where I learned how to be competitive. My little league coach said, Mark, I want you to bean the first batter every game. And I did, but not very hard, just bean him. Then when the second batter gets to the plate, I want you to throw smoke right over his head. So little Johnny is 4'8", 95 pounds, comes up to the plate, and he's backing away from the plate. And the coach is in the dugout, Johnny, get up to the plate. Mom's in the bleachers, no, Johnny, no, get away from the plate. He's going to kill you. That's how I knew how to be competitive and use my size as an advantage. I was recruited in college by at least a dozen or 15 schools across the East Coast, some in the West, some in the Midwest. I took trips to these schools. Now think about it. Penn State, of course. Boston College, of course. Pittsburgh, I went to school there. But I also took a trip to URI, University of Rhode Island. Now, I'm going to tell you why. Because the recruiting coach told me this. Our campus dorms are about a quarter of a mile from the beach. And we have co-ed floors. I took a trip there. The other place I went was BYU. Now, look at me, I'm not Mormon, of course. But at that time, the coach that was out there recruiting, he was at another school and went to BYU, and he said, you've got to come here, you're going to love it. You're an outdoors kid, upstate New York, you're going to love it. I went to Provo, Utah. It was incredible, incredibly clean and beautiful. It's 65 degrees down in Provo at the campus. You turn around and you look up at the mountains. It's snow-covered mountains. You go up there, there's antelope running around and all kinds of wild animals, and it's just an amazing place if you've never been there. For a kid from upstate New York that never had an opportunity to travel and enjoy that, I took that opportunity, and football's given me those opportunities. The other place I went to was a place called SMU. Now, if you follow college football in the 70s, you don't even have to ask. Ron Meyer was the head coach. He picked me up at the airport in a convertible Eldorado, red, white interior with steer horns on the roof. I'm not kidding you, on the hood. So I took a trip there. I ended up going to the University of Pittsburgh because of a few things. One, when I first went to the city of Pittsburgh, you go through the pit tunnels and it's all dark and it opens up and you see the huge, beautiful city of Pittsburgh with the skyscrapers and Three River Stadiums and the Pirates Park there and Triangle Park there, and it opens up and it's just absolutely gorgeous, and it just stuns you if it's the first time you've ever been to the city of Pittsburgh. They always bring you in at night when they recruited you there. The other thing was Hugh Green, Ricky Jackson, and myself was recruited by Tony Dorsett, Jake Parrish, and Cecil Johnson. They were all three friends, and they said, kids, you pups, we don't take recruits here. You guys better sign with Pitt. So I think it worked out well, since I went to the College Football Hall of Fame, Hugh's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and Ricky Jackson is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. We had some great teams at the University of Pittsburgh. Obviously, Jackie Sherr was our head coach. 22-2 our last 2 years, and if we had the BCS system or the playoff system as we have now, we definitely would have been in it, at least those 2 years, because we had two terrific teams. Off those teams, we had 17 players. Think of this. 17 players either played in the NFL or USFL in our senior class. Talk about a great recruiter and developer Jackie Sherr was. He doesn't get the credit that he should. And he just celebrated his 70th birthday this past fall. So I just want to say hats off to him. I know he's always in the area recruiting or going around and doing some media things. But when I was drafted by the Washington Redskins, first year, we went 0-5. People forget that. All they think about is the Super Bowls with Joe Gibbs, what we had done, the Hall of Famers, the Pro Bowlers. We were 0-5. That staff at that time thought they were going to get fired by Jack Kent Cooke, our owner. Well, he bit the bullet and kept that staff because he knew he had something special in Joe Gibbs, and obviously it paid off. Went to our first Super Bowl the following year, and Joe Gibbs told us, you know what? Nobody repeats a Super Bowl. Our goal is to get back to the Super Bowl. This is something that stuck with me my whole life. Be careful what you say and how you word it. Our goal is to get back to the Super Bowl the following year. Well, we did, and we lost. The goal should have been get back to the Super Bowl and win. And that taught me something throughout my life, how to finish things. Whatever you start, finish them. And that always stuck with me, like growing up with my father. My father worked 2 and 3 jobs. My mom passed away when I was 3. He raised 5 children. Never took government subsidies. Never took welfare. Never took food stamps. He taught us as kids, if you want something, you go out and you work for it. And if you want something more, you work harder than the person next to you. And that always stuck with me throughout my entire life, and it still does today, and I try to implement that in my children today. And that's why I feel I'm successful, because it goes back to my roots and my father and what he was able to do and accomplish when I was a kid growing up. And that's why in this business in college football, and whatever I do and whatever endeavor I do, my word is my bond. If I say I'm going to do something, become heck or high water, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to find a way to do it. And if I don't, there's got to be some miraculous thing that happens that I can't. And if somebody says I can't do it, just challenge me. I'll find a way to beat that obstacle and do it. And that's what I feel about broadcasting. It was something that I never thought I was going to do. You know, I did a little bit of it when I was with the Redskins. When I retired, I was going to take a year off and fish and travel the country and watch games. My agent calls me up in the middle of the summer and says, got you a job. I said, Ralph, I've got a job. I worked in the off season, dealer training school with Ford and Chrysler. I own part of a dealership. I'm going in the car business. I'll do some broadcasting. Well, I signed you with the University of Pittsburgh as a color analyst. You got a job. Never called a game in my life. So in the middle of the summer, I'm in my garage watching tapes, emulating guys calling games the entire summer long to figure out how to call a game. The best advice I ever got calling a game was from Bill Hillgrove. He's still there today doing the play-by-play. He said, talk about what you know, talk about football, relax and have fun. And that's what I try to do today. When I cover games for ESPN, I try to make it as simple as possible and not as complicated as possible so anybody can understand what we're talking about on the air. I try to challenge you and say something to stimulate you, either to tick you off, to make you mad, to make you think, or to agree with me. But I'm not going to sit there and say, yeah, it was a great run by him. He put it in there. I'm not going to do that. I don't do that. And with Coach Holtz and Reese Davis, that's what we try to do. We try to set the table for you, and we try to challenge you. We try to make you think. We try to give you some enjoyment and make you laugh, so that'll keep you coming back and watching us. And I think that we've done a decent job at that over the years. We spent our 10th year together this year. I've been at ESPN 14 years. With Reese and with Coach Holtz, it's our 10th year together. And I think that's a pretty good long run at anything in broadcasting. So we're going to try to make it 11 and 12 and 13. Coach this year keeps telling everybody this is the 5th time that it's my last year and I'm retiring. He's not going to do that because we're not going to let him retire. So I want to tell you all a secret right now. Go to your banks, your credit unions. Take money out of your checking, your savings, all your money, gather it all together because I want to send you to Las Vegas to make the bet of your life. Coach Holtz is giving the pep talk at Notre Dame this Friday night against Michigan. Bet all your money on Michigan because there's no way Notre Dame's going to win that football game. I only jest. I've been with Coach Holtz for a decade now, and he's one of the closest people that I know and that I have. And he and Reese are family to me. And what you see on television is true. We definitely go at it. It's not parched. It's not play. We definitely feel our emotions on which end of the spectrum that we're debating on or arguing on or we're having a conversation on. And afterwards, we get together. Sometimes it carries over. Sometimes he gets mad. But that's him. I let it go. I'm not one of those people that I hold on to a grudge. But it is true. We have different views on things, and that's the honest thing that you see on television is our emotion and our passion, and that'll never change. And with Coach Holtz, he's been able to do some things for me that I could never accomplish as a young African-American kid coming from upstate New York. He took me to Augusta National. He's a member there, not once, but he's taken me there 3 times. And that's how close we are, and that's how much I think and respect of him and how much he respects me, and that's how much I really love the guy, and I truly do, and I always will. And I'm glad he's back at ESPN for the 5th last time, and hopefully we'll make it a 10th or 12th last time. And with Reese Davis, he's one of my closest people that I know in my life. He's a friend, he's a brother, he's somebody that I can always count on. And we have a true relationship there at ESPN, and it's probably the closest relationship as anybody that has at ESPN. We've been together for a decade. We've never had a fight. Well, we've had fights on air and stuff like that. Well, Coach did threaten to kick my butt as a 73-year-old grandfather, but I didn't take it to heart. I just thought he was joking at the time, but I guess when he threw his pipe at me, maybe he was telling the truth, and he really felt that way. But it's been an incredible journey for me, and I'm just excited about college football right now where we are. As you know, we have the playoff this year. I think Bill Hancock is the right guy to run it. I think Jeff Long is definitely the right person to chair the selection committee with his integrity, what he knows about the game, and where he's been and been around. Jeff, as you know, has been a friend of mine if you know me and if you were here in the past. I think that this is going to be something great for college football. This is what all you fans wanted. You wanted a playoff. This is what you wanted. Now we've got the playoff. Now the selection committee is filled with a bunch of people with a tremendous amount of integrity. Each and every one of those people on that list, if you go through the list, integrity was number 1, and I think they got the right amount of people to do it and the right people to do it. So this year, the playoff is going to be rotated every year between these bowls. The Rose, Fiesta, the Sugar, the Orange, the Cotton, and the Peach. Those are always going to rotate for the playoffs. Now the championship game is going to be played at whoever bids it out the highest bidder. Guess who was the highest bidder for the first playoff game? One guess. Jerry World. That's right, AT&T Stadium. So Jerry got the first bid, and that's where we're going to have the championship game. The playoffs this year are going to be at the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. The winner of those 2 teams will play in the championship game in Dallas at AT&T on January 12th. So that's the new system that we have. Hopefully it'll work. I'm sure everybody will start screaming for, well, if 4 is good, then 8 is better. I don't think so. I think right now with the contract that we have, I think let's just settle on 4 for a while. Let's see how that goes. You know, the BCS system, they were there to get number 1 and number 2. I thought Bill Hancock, once he started to take over, and I believe it was 2005, did a tremendous job of matching number 1 versus number 2. Now he's the executive director of the playoff. I think he'll do a terrific job with this. There's always going to be complaints from 3 and 4 when we have the BCS. I'm sure there's going to be complaints with 5 and 6 now with the playoff. but at least it's expanded now. It's a bigger pool. It's going to make more money for all the colleges involved. And I think it's going to give more fan participation because it's going to lengthen the season a little bit, and there's going to be a lot more interest in this. Hopefully it'll never get like the NFL. I love the NFL. I spent 13 years of my life there. But I just think the NFL is so commercialized when they get to the big games and the playoffs. I want the true fans to be able to get to the playoff game. I want the college kids to be able to go to these games in the championship game because they're part of the environment. They're part of the culture of college football. I don't want to go out there and look at the crowd and see a bunch of I love the corporate sponsors, but I don't want to see 80,000 corporate sponsors. I want to see the dynamics of college football involved in these games and have the opportunity to be in these playoff games and the opportunity to be in the championship game. And I hope that comes true. Now with that, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about college football. Oh, gee.
I got the first one. Mark, what makes you, I know a lot of Razorback fans are looking at the Auburn-Arkansas game and trying to evaluate, has progress been made? Can you read anything out of the first game? Why are you so confident of Coach Bielema? You said you feel confident he's going to get the job done. What is it in his background at Wisconsin? He's in the toughest league in the country. What makes you feel he's going to get it done here?
Well, if you look at the game the other day, it was tied up at half. The rain delay really hurt the game. When they were in the game, they were able to run the ball successfully, and they didn't get behind by a lot. Once they got behind by a lot, they had to do something that was out of their skin. They had to throw the ball a lot. They're not very good at throwing the ball. They weren't in the past. Their defense was on the field too long in the second half, and they got worn down. If they were able to continue to run the ball in the second half, it probably would have been a different outcome or a closer outcome. The score wasn't indicative of what that game really was, particularly if you look at the first half, because in the first half, it was a slugfest. And if you look at Brett Bielema in his past, success at Wisconsin running the football, he's building that type of team. You can't really just go ahead and just add a couple of players and mix and expect to be a playoff team. Even though Auburn was able to do it last year, get to the championship game, I think when you look at Brett Bielema, you look at there that at least they're going in the right direction. They're not going backwards. And you look at the plate that he was handed, it wasn't half a plate. It was a quarter of a plate. And to compete in the SEC, you better start off with 3/4 of a plate. So I think that when you look at Brett Bielema, I think he's the right guy. Give him a chance to recruit. And 3 or 4 years from now, if he doesn't get it done, he doesn't get it done. But give him his chance to do what he needs to do and get his type of player in at Arkansas. Yes, sir. Thoughts and controversy about the Redskins' name. Since I'm on tape right now and ESPN keeps asking me to weigh in on it because I am part Native American because my grandfather on my mother's side was 100% Seminole Indian, I've talked to my relatives about it, and I'd rather not say publicly at this time. When I do, it'll be something that I'm definitely going to put out there because the company's going to stand behind me. And when I do, if I do, it's going to be because of certain reasons, because I feel that way, because I have my own skin in the game, my blood, sweat, and tears in the game. I played there for a decade. I was a first-round pick, and I have Native American blood in me. So when I come out and say something, it's going to be the appropriate time. Yes, sir. I have to think about that because Lou tells quite a few stories. But usually it's happy wife, happy life. I've been married for 25 years. I think Coach has been married for 52 years. The backyard brawl at Pitt, University of Pittsburgh versus West Virginia, what are the chances of them getting back together? I believe that they are. It's on paper right now, but it hasn't been solidified because Steve Peterson, the athletic director, wants it. In my years at the University of Pittsburgh, that you mentioned those people from West Virginia picking up their teeth if they didn't have a few, but when I went to Pitt, this is no lie, our last game was at West Virginia in their stadium. They're going to tear the stadium down. So, their infinite wisdom before the game, they have West Virginia and Pitt soccer play. Now, you have to envision this at West Virginia. It's all mountainous. People come out of the mountains with all their hats and stuff and beards and stuff like that and their fur pelts that they're wearing on their shoulders and stuff. And the night before, they put us at a hotel outside of town where there's probably about 2,000 people outside of our hotel. And it's not a hotel, of course. It's in West Virginia. Don't get mad at me. It's a motel because you can walk right by the doors. So they've got the National Guard that comes out on horseback that protects us that night. And this is a true story. We're going to the stadium in the buses. They've got National Guardsmen on horseback leading us to the stadium where they're throwing oranges, they're throwing rocks, frozen apples. And then we're on the sidelines. The first thing, and I said this on television, I got roasted for this years ago. Jackie Sherrill told all the freshmen, when you walk on the field, don't ever take your helmet off. And they said, why? He said, because they throw pennies. And they said, why do they throw pennies? He said, because they can't afford nickels. That's what Jackie Sherrill told us. Let's make this perfectly clear. I got about 5,000 emails on that one. But on the field of play, they had to stop play twice in that game because it was just so raucous in the fans. They were throwing things, yelling at us, screaming at us. But that's just the type of venom between the fans because those high school kids play against each other. They grow up against each other in Western Pennsylvania and in West Virginia. They know each other. They go to camps against each other, so they just hate each other. When they get on the field to play, they have that passion there. And it's one of the better rivalries that a lot of people don't hear about in the country. But if you're in Western Pennsylvania, you're in West Virginia, or even Southern Ohio, you know about the backyard brawl. And hopefully it comes back because I think right now we're in different conferences, but they should be able to make that work. Yes, sir. Yes, the question about nagging injuries in the NFL and the junior SAO issue, the concussion settlement I am a part of. And the reason why is because when I played 13 years, when you got a concussion, they gave you an ammonia tablet, and they said how many fingers I have up. If they had 3, if you said 1, that was close enough, and they put you back in. And that's a true story, and that was a different era. At least now they're proactive in the situation, and they're getting involved more in the situation, and they should because now there's more information that's out there. We're better educated about concussions now, and the league is better educated, and college football is better educated, and that is definitely a good thing. Injuries I had a nasty knee injury when I played. I recovered from it and still played. Still have back and neck injuries. I hit a sled for 21 years of my life. I've got spinal stenosis. It's just one of those things. It's part of it. And the injuries that I sustained today and the pain that I sustained today, I would not trade it for a minute because what football was able to do for me and my family, and it's still paying off dividends today. So it's not everyone's same choice. Everybody has to make their choice. But if I had the choice to do it all over again, I would not hesitate. Yes, sir. I see out of those 3, Houston, Gene Chizik, and Lane Kiffin resurrecting their coaching career. Lane already has, obviously, because he's the offensive coordinator at Alabama. One thing about Lane Kiffin, he's a brilliant offensive mind, and he always has been. He's always had the tools around him when he was at USC, but the guy's a smart offensive play caller, and he's a good quarterback developer. And I think he'll get his chance in another couple of years. Who thought Bobby Petrino would get another chance? I didn't. You know, honestly, when you don't tell the truth to your athletic director and he goes and stands by you and stands for you and that happens to you, a lot of athletic directors probably wouldn't give you a second chance. So he's gotten a second chance, and I believe in second chances. I believe in third chances, but I thought Bobby Petrino might have to wait 4 or 5 or 6 more years. I think Lane Kiffin, if he continues to do a good job there, and if Nick doesn't have his fingers around his throat in the fourth quarter of one of these closest games, if it happens in the future, one of these close games, I think he'll do well. I do. I think there's a good dynamic between the two, that they offset each other well. And I think you saw in that game that, you know, the offense wasn't the problem. You look what Sims was able to do. His numbers, if you look at his numbers were pretty good. It was the defense that was a problem. You know, when you lit up 365 yards to a first-time starter in Clint Trickett, 2 consecutive games, Alabama's given up over 300 yards passing. That's the first time under Saban since 2007. I think you got issues on defense. So I think Lane Kiffin's done all right so far with the offense. Yes, sir. The SEC is dog eat dog. They're going to eat their own. When I looked at the SEC at the beginning, who thought that Texas A&M would win double-digit dog on the road against South Carolina, the ball coach, 18 consecutive wins at home in South Carolina and Columbia, and not only win the way they won, with a new quarterback, never started before, on the road, 511 yards, 3 touchdowns. You didn't think of that. And their defense played much better than they did last year. You look at Alabama, they struggled a little bit against West Virginia. You know they're going to get better. LSU comes from behind. You know, I don't know if Les is just fooling us with the hat there. He's got more fourth quarter come from behind victories than anybody in the SEC. I think he does it on purpose. So you look at those teams, and then you look at Auburn, and you look at Georgia, the way that Todd Gurley played. And not Todd Gurley, look at his backups, those freshmen that came in and played behind him. I mean, that team in the second half really took off, and you've got a guy like that. And I was talking on radio to the guys on the bus before. I said, you utilize him in the special teams area like we utilize Darrell Green with the Redskins, not as a steady diet. When you really need a big play, an explosive play to get the team going, to get the ball moving, you put him back on special teams and let him return a kick. We did that with Darrell Green, and he was our punt returner, but we didn't do it all the time. We only did it when we really needed it. That's how good Todd Gurley is. And if they can keep him healthy through the year, he'll definitely be in New York, and he'll be a top 5 pick for me in the NFL draft if he stays healthy this year and plays like that. Yes, sir. Well, he's thinking that Les is not a smart guy, or he's portrayed that way, not a smart guy. We think Les is terrific because he's great for television. He's a funny guy, and he gets it. And he's comfortable in his own skin. And the guy's a smart coach. If you just look at his record, I mean, it wasn't like he was left with a table bare when he inherited the team that he got in the beginning. He was able to build upon it. And the way that this guy recruits and develops, he doesn't get enough credit for it. You know, Les is one of the top coaches in the country, and we fool around with the smoothies and stuff on ESPN, but we respect the heck out of Les Miles because if you look at his track record and what he's done at Oklahoma State and LSU, the guy can coach, the guy can recruit. There's no question in that. But we love him because of his personality. He's not afraid to let his personality show. That's why they use him in the commercials. We see him out there, and he has fun with it. And the thing about it is he's just successful. The guy's the heck of a football coach. If I'm an AD and I get a chance to hire him, where's the checkbook? Yes. Right. Wow, that's a loaded question. What will college football look like in the next 5 or 10 years? I think when they start to pay players, it's going to be tough. And everybody says with autonomy, they're going to start to do everything in the Power 5, and they're going to be able to do what they want. Once you break that barrier, every non-revenue generating sport, every Title IX sport, every person out there that's not getting paid for playing college athletics is going to have an attorney. And it's just going to open up a huge ball of wax. It's like Northwestern right now. They want to unionize. Okay, we're going to unionize you, and we're going to treat you as an employee. So let me see what that college scholarship is worth. 65, 70 grand a year? So at the end of 4 years, you're paying what? $280,000 that you're going to be taxed on because you're an employee. So who's paying those taxes? So there's a whole ball of string that's got to come unravel with paying kids and everything going down the line. And I think they've just scratched the surface. It's a story now for the media, but when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it's going to come down to the attorneys. Yes. The funnest thing that football has brought into my life, probably Super Bowl 22. Because my first year, we were 0-5, we ended up 8-8. My second year we went to the Super Bowl, I'm 21 years old. Third year I went to the Super Bowl, 22 years old. I'm thinking, hey, this is easy. We can do this all the time. And I was so young and dumb, I didn't realize how hard it was to get there because there are players on my team that had played 10 and 12 years that had never been there. Then I realized it took another 4 years to get back, how hard it was and how fortunate it was. And you have to be lucky and you have to be good to get back and to win it. And then when we played that game against Denver, they took the early lead. And then we just kept running the ball and doing what we did, and we just ran the ball down their throat. We set a record for scoring and points and yards in the second quarter of that Super Bowl, and it was fun. And it was the first time in a long time that it wasn't a business for me. It was fun. And the rest of that game, we just had a great time. We just rolled out on counter trade, knocking guys on their cans, and just high-fived each other. It was just a good time. That was probably the most fun I had in football. Yes, sir. Now, it's a fluid situation, my top 4 picks. As I keep saying on ESPN, they want the Heisman winner week 1. They want the top 4 picks. I'm like, if I'm Kreskin, I want the top 6 numbers of the Powerball. But my top 4 going into the season, it's Florida State, Alabama, Oregon, and Oklahoma. Now, this past Saturday, the way that the teams played on the field of play, if it had to be done after Saturday, our top 4, mine was Georgia, Texas A&M, Florida State, and Oklahoma, just because of what they had done last year and how they played that Saturday and how impressive they were on that. Now, it'll change throughout the year depending on who they play and how they play. But I think when you look at the selection committee, that's how they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to throw out the polls, the early 8, all that stuff goes out the window. They're going to have to look at strength of schedule, head-to-head, conference championships. So there's a lot that goes into it. So it's going to be moving and shaking. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Everybody can watch 5 games on their couch.
Yep.
Now, we carry ESPN Live, so we can tailgate and watch our games while we're absent.
Right. Mm-hmm. Question is what can they do about the passion to bring the fans back into the stadium environments and on campus? I think you have to have meetings like this and luncheons like this and go out and spread the word. Bring kids, bring your grandkids to these events if you can. Bring them to the games if you can to get that passion rekindled again. Because now it's a different environment. When I grew up, we had 3 channels. You know, and they were all black and white. We didn't have a color television. So now you've got the opportunity, and football is a game that's made for television. It's not like soccer or hockey or baseball that drags on. Football is really unique because it's made for television. You can sit in your man cave or your woman cave or co-op cave and you can watch 10 games and sit there and not leave your home and have your big plate of food and have your icy cold beverages and not leave home. And football is made for that. So it's difficult to do that. That's why so many schools and so many conferences have huge television deals right now because it's compensating for that. But I think that you're going to see people get back into that because everything's cyclical. Everything that you look at, it's like offenses and the spread and the power. And every 4 or 5 years it changes. And hopefully it'll change for college football that more and more people will start going to games because it's something that they have to experience. Once you experience that as a young kid, you're hooked. So the younger and younger this game gets, bring young kids to the games. Bring your friends. Bring your wives, girlfriends. Bring them to the game because there's so many females that I see now that are so passionate about football that it's changed so much since when I played. You know, when I played, girls went to games because the guys wanted them to go. Now they're like on the internet tweeting saying, Mark, why'd you say that, you idiot? I can't believe you broke down the 4-3 defense and they're not even running. They ran a 34 in that play because you didn't see that linebacker up. It's like, I'm getting these emails from girl. I'm like, what? Yes. I think a combination of both. I think they've already changed the game, the way that you tackle, the way that you hit. You can't hit with the crown of the helmet. You can't tackle a quarterback above the shoulders in the neck area when he's in the pocket. They're changing the rules that are for the better. There's a company that I saw on ESPN the other day on a drag racing. I was watching it, and he makes these drag racing helmets for race car drivers. And a friend of his, Tom Moore, at the time was the offensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts, sent him a couple of helmets saying we're having players having concussion problems. So I was watching this. It was just a vignette on the air, and I'm saying, this guy's developed this helmet with Kevlar in it and special pads in it that he said 1 out of 6 players will get a concussion with this helmet, the regular helmet. With his helmet, 0.0064 players will get a concussion, and he shows this machine of the helmet crashing down with his type of helmet. It's going to be an equipment change. As a matter of fact, I scribbled down the name of this company because I want to invest in it because obviously if this helmet's that good, they're going to make sure everybody goes to that helmet or that type of helmet. And I hope it comes to that because little kids out there, they love the game. They want to emulate guys that play the game. And I think they need to be protected from day one. So hopefully the equipment will get better, but the rules are also changing to help players.
Let me ask a question, too. You've had a great career, Mark. I would just be curious to see, who were your idols growing up? Who were the players that you idolized? And then college and pro, who are the greatest players you played against and the greatest players you played with?
Growing up, when I was like 12, I saw John Riggins play for the Jets. And I was a teenager, and I had a John Riggins jersey. I went to the Redskins, got drafted by the Redskins. I said, hey, I had your jersey when I was a kid. He told me some words that you couldn't repeat in front of you all and said, take that, rookie. I never realized until it was like my 11th or 12th year in the league where a guy, Courtney Hall, when I was playing for the San Diego Chargers, came up to me and said, I had your rookie cover when I was a kid. I didn't say those same words, but I thought about it pretty deeply before I said, someday somebody's going to say that to you and see how you feel when you're in your early 30s. The toughest players I played against with are both Hall of Famers. And I played against them both in college, believe it or not. Played North Carolina in college, Lawrence Taylor. Played Tennessee in college, Reggie White. And he was a freshman. And I was a junior. And the kid was just tough to block. And I'm going back telling Jackie Sherrill, this kid's tough. He said, for freshman, you knock him out, you're Mark May. It's like, this kid's pretty doggone good. So it turns out it's Reggie White. So lo and behold, I have to go to the NFC East my first 10 years. Who gets drafted in the NFC East? Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White comes out of the USFL. So I got to face those guys for 4 or 5 years. I'll tell you a story about Reggie. I kind of was not the nicest guy in the field sometimes. I got the Conrad Dover Award twice. And sometimes I'd say some things or knee a guy at the bottom of a pile, so I'm like giving it to Reggie, and it's at the end of the play, and I'm giving him an elbow in the ribs, and I'm stepping on his hands, and I'm calling him a couple of names, and I'm calling him a fat son of a gun and stuff like that. And all he's saying is, God bless you. I'll be fine. Go with God. So after about a quarter and a half, I'm going, what the heck is this problem? I turned it down more. I said, what's this problem? He goes, Mayday, he's an ordained minister. And I'm like, oh. So the next play, Mr. White, could I help you off the ground? It's good to meet you, Mr. White. And from that point on, it was always Mr. White. It wasn't Reggie or I'm going to kick your butt. But that's a true story. I didn't know that. I was like, eeh. But those are the two toughest players I played against in my career. And you're going to have another one come up here next week. Mike Singletary and I, we were all Americans together in college. He was one of the two players that gave me sparklers, that I saw the little sparklers come off when you hit him head to head. He and Harry Carson. And I dropped to a knee and saw the sparklers. And it was one of those things where I came out to hit him, and he just got enough leverage under my chin to jack me up, because he's only like 6 foot. He got right under my chin. I saw those sparklers go off, and I was like looking at him. He like looked at me because he's got those wild eyes. And I was like, Ma? Pa? But those are the two hardest hits I took from two linebackers in the NFL.
One more question.
Sure. One more question? Where is it?
One more? Back?
Yes, ma'am.
After hearing you going to bed at 12:45, waking up at 4, and coming here and having this awesome personality, do you have any youth/energy secrets?
5-hour energy. They asked me that when I did radio. It's like, you linemen are all laid back. It's like, because I just popped my 5-hour energy when I was upstairs before I came downstairs after taking a shower. So I can get it rolling after that. But you'll probably see me like pass out on the plane back to Arizona tonight. But I'd like to thank you for being so nice and some great questions in your hospitality. I always enjoy coming here and spending time with you because you're so knowledgeable about the game and you care about the game and you care about your team. And it's just wonderful what you do for the NFF and for college football and for the Little Rock Touchdown Club. It's just amazing because I go to some of these things across the country and you don't have that big of a response. Even at dinners, this many people that show up to the events. And you guys are something special. Make sure you keep it going. And thank this guy here because without him, I wouldn't be here. And without here, this wouldn't be such a fantastic event. Thank you very much. God bless.
Mark May, everybody. Great job, Mark. Thank you for being here. Mike Singletary next week at the Marriott.